Most of what you're going to be doing is data collection, so you might need to coach on what data to collect, matching that data to an intervention. You may need to coach on frequency of collection. That's a big one for the teachers I work with. They think that they can't collect data more than once a month or once every other week until we start talking about the number of data points. Setting targets. This is a huge one, and sometimes this is a district philosophy and sometimes it's individual philosophy. In your districts, do you set your targets based on grade level or based on instructional level? Grade level, okay.
It's a little bit of both. It depends on the student and where they're at.
Okay.
For some that we know for a fact they can't meet that grade level target, and we are supposed to back it down, but we're supposed to indicate in the IEP that we did that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so depending upon, so the students already identified most likely instructional level. If they're in a pre-referral, probably a grade level.
Grade level for referral
Okay.
process, yeah.
Okay, some other things that you might be coaching on is choosing and conducting intervention. Really getting, and I think you talked about this, focusing on the area of concern, not what I have on the shelf. I have a group that's already doing this, so Johnny can go into that group. Scheduling it, we were just talking about that. Really trying to think of how can this teacher, a gen teacher, fit time to do an intervention in the schedule. Adjusting it based on the data. It doesn't seem to be working, what can you do? Do we need to throw something more on, or do we need to take something away? Maybe there's too much going on in this intervention, and we really now know that we need to drill down to this portion of it. And fidelity. Somehow we need to know that the intervention is carried out in the manner it's supposed to be. Problem-solving teams is another one that you might need to do a lot of coaching in. How do you run that problem-solving process? Who's there? There's some schools special ed does not have access to the problem-solving team because they know it all, so they can fix it and work there. Adherence to the process. Are you supposed to come with data, or are you supposed to come after you've done everything and then be told you have to do more? Documentation. Building your district forms somehow so that the documentation is very out there. Teachers know exactly what they need to bring when they bring a student to a problem-solving team. Districts are slowly but surely developing those forms. SPED forms has some things in it, lots of stuff going on. And then problem statements, which are a lot of these things we're going to be talking about in the next couple of days, writing problem statements. What really is the student struggling with? Communication, you have a speaker, you have a message, you have a listener, there's interference, there's a perceived message, and the feedback. Speaker, message, those are pretty obviously what's happening. The listener, the inability to listen may be the most costly of the human relation skills to be without. Interesting. When I listen with great care, the person I'm speaking with almost always becomes a much better listener. So if you are listening with great care, you can be modeling that back to that person. Interference, sometimes it's very visible. You're trying to talk to the teacher and they've got the whole class sitting there. Sometimes they're looking at their computer, whatever happens to be. There may be some things that you might not see. That teacher may have gotten a call that morning that their mother was just sent to the hospital. It's being a very stoic teacher and not saying anything, but that's obviously on their mind, and whatever you're saying is not totally getting in, so that's some interference that you might have. There is always some interference, it's just not always as obvious. So you just have to make sure that you are in tune as much as you can. That interference is going to impact the perceived message. So you need to, that's why having the person paraphrase back or asking those questions to make sure that what you said is what they heard and what you meant is what they heard. And then making sure you have that feedback. Listening is an overt act of will and skill. Coaches have to make a conscious decision to listen attentively. We are all multitaskers, and this age of technology has made us worse. Because we think that we have to be constantly connected with everything. So really making a conscious effort of, I'm putting my phone in my purse, I'm not going to take it with me. Whatever, if it buzzes, I'm not going to watch it and look at it, making sure you have that. Remember that part of listening is projecting that you are listening, that body language. If they see you doing this or checking this and slyly checking your watch under the table, they're going to know you're not listening fully. Silence yourself and attend to others is Covey. And Covey's one of my other people that I like a lot, who does the circle of influence, circle of concern. And then the message that matters most is the one that in the teacher's mind, not in the coach's mind. Why is that?
It's about the teacher.
Yep. It's about the teacher. It's about the person you're working with. Time for change varies from person to person. Obviously that's true. These are the stages of change. The ones with the asterisks are the ones where you're going to really need to coach a little bit more. So pre-contemplation, they're just kind of thinking about, I might need to do something different. Once they're really delving in and really deciding to make some things and thinking about that, you probably have to coach some more. That's when you're kind of thinking about what action might you do. Then you're going to have to coach them how to prepare. Once the action is starting, you're going to need to be in there. And maintenance is where we often forget that people need coaching. Maintenance is where, in Jim Knight's research, if you don't have coaching, they start retweaking it back to their old practices, back to their comfort zone. So when that teacher is working and it's become part of the routine, we need to make sure we keep going in there and monitoring that. And then termination is when the changes just become part of their nature. You still need to kind of think about that. Maybe once a year, kind of check in and see how's that change working. Listening strategies at inner silence, very hard. Listen for contradictions to our assumptions. You assume this teacher doesn't know how to do data collection. But then she starts talking, and it's like, she knows some things, but she may not know how to actualize those. So maybe she knows all about it, but she doesn't know how to actually do it. Make sure you're clarifying, paraphrase back, have them paraphrase, make sure that you are saying the same thing. And another thing with clarifying is making sure that the terms you use, you both agree on the definition. Progress monitoring is one that we don't always agree on. Formative assessments, it's amazing the different definitions of a formative assessment. Make sure you ask questions. You need to practice listening every day. And then you also need to practice with terrible listeners. How many of you have teenagers at home? Try to listen to them. Try to watch them listening to you as you're doing that. And listen for the feelings as well as that underlying message. Biggest thing is you can't be somebody you aren't. So be yourself. You already are a respected person in your district or you would not be here. You are already a person who is knowledgeable about change and about SRBI process and so on, or you wouldn't be here. So be yourself, stick to your principles, ask questions, get support, and allow that support. We are leaders in our districts, and so sometimes we think that, well, I can just do it. I can do this. I can barrel through. I can muddle through. I'm going to do this. I don't need anybody else. I can do this stuff. Don't be stubborn. Allow us to help you. Allow for mistakes and learn from those. Be patient. It's going to be a slow process. As you're learning this material, it's going to be slow and it's going to feel like you're never going to know it. But these guys will tell you that you eventually do. And then make sure you keep the focus on the student. That's why we're here, is to improve the student's success. It's not to make a difference in my life, it's to make a difference in that student's life. Become that positive, defiant person. So ask the unscripted questions. Don't come in with the scripted questions you have to ask, but ask those ones that prompt and come up as you're going through. When you see something happening, ask about it. Gosh, tell me why you're thinking that. Tell me where you got that information from. That's something different than I understood. Where did you learn that from? I need to research that. Because it's amazing how teachers can read research or pseudo-research and it becomes the gospel, or they misinterpreted what the researchers said. Don't be a whiner. You can whine to us. You can complain to us when you need that. Call on us and let it out. You can't do it to your colleagues that you are working with. You guys who are a team, you can do it to each other. But the rest of our colleagues, we can't. Count something that is interesting to you and you will learn something interesting. Count the number of teachers that you are working with. Count the number of graphs that you saw in a day. Count the number of students who's improved on their benchmarks. Show yourself some of those things. Write something. The published word. It's a declaration of membership in your community and willingness to contribute something meaningful to it. Terry's writing something with Jackie and a couple other people working on a new ER template. She's showing her commitment to the team. Our problem-solving group is, because the leader has had too many things on her plate, but we're working on building a problem-solving process and some things and tools for helping problem-solving. So we're going to write about that. That's where the wiki can be a place to go. There's a place that you can put things on the wiki of, this is a thought of mine, I'm kind of thinking about that, I need feedback. Once you put it down, it becomes a little more permanent and a little bit more important to you. I write my grocery list before I go to the grocery store. Once I've written it, I rarely look at it once I get at the store. But I've written it down, and so I've kind of internalized a little bit. Now, I have a friend who writes her grocery list in the order of the aisles. Oh, that's way too organized for me. I write it as things run out of home. Change. So look for that opportunity to change, and that's why you're here. And this is another quote from Wani. Find something new to try, something to change. Count how often you succeed and how often you fail. Write about it. Ask people what they ask people what they think. See if you can keep the conversation going. And those are some of the sources I used as I went through. I also brought one of the four books. I didn't have that one. This is on Common Ground's problem-solving teams. I often reference this book if you are doing anything in reading. Excellent book on the evolution of reading and reading instruction. It's a little heavy, a little, but really if reading is not your forte or something that you're extremely interested in, one-on-one, it's a great book. This is another one on professional learning communities that works pretty well. Also look at the resource list that will show you as the day goes on.